I don't mind taking breaks and answering questions, as we go through the different topics too. But um, overall, Mitch, do you want to be the overall tempo and moderator?
Sure.
Because I tend to drone on and go talking too long about sometimes some topics.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We can definitely walk through sort of the big beats of the plan that we got.
Okay, cool. So it's 2 minutes after the hour. Shall we get started, or Mitch, you have any fun, more small warm-up stuff?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, we did a little bit of a warm up already, chatting with some of the founders earlier before this, and watching Co-Defender play Escape from Tarkov. So I think we're great. Jumpgate, are you set up with recording this? So for anyone else, are you good to go there? I guess we'll make sure on that first.
Yeah, we're good to go on this.
All right, great.
Okay, very cool. Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. We've got an agenda planned, but we're also happy to go a little freeform at the end and just go a little loose and chatty. But we have a lot of significant news to announce, and we're announcing here. First of all, is most exciting, probably, is that we did close our seed round of financing. All together as $3.5 million of financing for the project and Million on Mars metaverse of stuff. That is huge. That just got closed right there in the first week of January. It was a tremendous amount of work, frankly, led by Carrie and myself. Although it was a full team effort, lots of people pitched in. Really, really pleased with our lead investors, Great Southgate and Whitus. Also, some of the folks here from the guild participated in there. It makes me really proud that some players are owning the company at the equity level. And I'm very, very proud that we were able to raise this money and close this round in the greater macro of the May Luna crypto winter, plus then the FTX implosion, plus the greater macro conditions. They're all pretty tough. So I would say it's a testament to the team, but it's also a testament to you, the players. We very much consider that we build this game with you guys. So fiercely proud of what we're all doing together. That's huge news. That gives us runway for very, very comfortably for the rest of the year, plus more, and we can fund all the stuff that we want to do. That's huge. Another formal announcement is I am stepping up to the role of the Chief Executive Officer of this company. I am the CEO now. Carrie Waters remains on the board. She's a chairman, executive chairman. She owns as much equity as I do. She very much cares about the company just as much. We talk every day, and she has an amazing opportunity that she couldn't turn down, where she's a chief product officer of a company about to go public, focused on new water tech. And she's, from her previous company, the Buoy, she had a lifelong passion on water technology and making the world better. It fits in the overall theme of Million on Mars, though, because we care a lot about building positive futures or envisioning positive futures or bringing those positive futures forward. So she and I like to think that she's still expanding overall the mission and the energy space of what we're doing. Related to Carrie, let me take a little sip here.
Realistically, probably the most expensive of the three.
As you know, she's the author of the Buffalo Commons novel, and we are all waiting for chapter 14, including myself. Why is there a delay on chapter 14?
Okay, then yeah.
She really deeply cares about her story, deeply cares about her characters and plot lines, and she dutifully created this big, beautiful story and plot line. She's got it all geeked out. She's a hardcore mathematics, mechanical engineer. But super frankly, she's a bit grumpy with Mr. Musk, Elon Musk, and his purchase of Twitter and his behavior online. And that's been irritating and distracting her. And so she's been working on a plot twist that I will not reveal, but she's got a new direction that she wants to go through and work something out, and that's the explanation for the delay on chapter 14.
I used my $60 off coupon worth of points for her $60 aid, so it's really a lot.
Before I start to get into other topics, those are 3 different agenda items. Does anybody have questions on those 3, or are there some
Engineer and all,
pre
giving him any water.
questions around those
He's got
topics?
water and crackers, but he's kind of refused other things I've offered him. I didn't see any littles in there.
He just got silent at the same time you were talking.
Feel free to either request on stage if you want to ask verbally, or you can ask inside a chat, either in the general. I made a thread there, whatever anyone prefers. Oh, there's Felix. I think he's got his hand up, right? Yep. Apologies. I'll let up Felix. I don't know if it doesn't tell us the order people requested to speak. I apologize. I'll get you up next, co-defender.
So I think it all is really good news. You talked about the funding earlier. How far do you think that funding will take us? In time frame.
I believe it's escape velocity, honestly, and that's what you do whenever you raise money. Is you think that that's the last round you need. I've raised 13 different rounds of financing in my career, so I have a lot of experience with it. So that should be plenty of money all the way through 23, plus more, plus funding some growth of what we want to do. That being said, we might just go ahead and raise some more money when times are good. It's always a good idea to raise money when things are good, because you don't want to wait until you actually need it.
And do you think that some of that money will be spent boosting the team with additional personnel, or do you think it will be spent in other ways?
I am really dour and conservative on paid marketing. I'm notoriously cheap when it comes to paid marketing. I have personally spent about $30 to $40 million on Facebook and Google ads on game advertisements in my career. So I know how to do it really well. I know how to do it with a lot of metrics and spend that kind of money efficiently. That being said, still the best form of growth is organic, viral word of mouth between players. And I'll talk about that in the long-term roadmap section. So we would not be spending a ton of that money on marketing. We will still do tactical stuff from time to time. We'll do little experiments with influencers. We'll do little things here and there. So it's not like it's zero money, but think of it more as like small experiments on the marketing side.
Okay. But you don't see it to... Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Do you see it to bolster the development team? Sorry, that was the angle I was coming from.
For sure. I know. I remember that. I was sneaking up on that. But yeah. Yes, that's fundamentally what you build games with is more labor. Currently, we're feeling pretty happy with engineers. Joel's on stage. He was just talking about how he'd like to get some more help on the Cebu Philippine time zone. I'm keen to get more game designers on board. We could always use more artists. We could use more of just about all the different roles.
Okay, thank you.
And of course, there's the mansions in the Bahamas, right? Let's not forget that.
Oh, right.
That's what everyone does when you raise lots of money. You gotta have some property that you just buy for everyone in the Bahamas. No, just kidding. Yeah.
Was Co-Defender coming up next?
He had the same question actually.
Okay.
So yeah, mainly just about like if they're the kind of breakdown stuff. We don't have like exact breakdowns of like how many hires we're gonna do or anything like that, but our biggest efforts are certainly focused around adding more to the game, building and doubling down on where we are now, and really kind of expanding on where we've gone over the last year even further. And the roadmap shows a lot of that.
Yeah. I from where I sit, in my view, our greatest need is on game design. Our second greatest need is on art bandwidth. And we have a couple different ways to address that. And then it'd come to engineering, which is unusual for me because in my game career, I almost always am stretched on engineering first, but we have some really, really excellent guys. And between Joel and Lamp, and Nimai in the North American time zone, and then Kevin, now Jude, James, and Angelo, and Cebu, that's quite a lot of firepower for our size of a team. And so we're really at the moment. You might want to talk about this a little bit, Joel. But like our current problem is not even writing so much code. Like we're at the point where we're writing actually more code than we can code review, test, and ship. So it almost be in a weird way like not helpful to get more people writing code. There's other aspects of the engineering that we need more coverage on.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I would think we'd probably expand, at least from my perspective, we'd probably expand QA a little bit. It's always good to review some of that stuff. I don't know. Me personally, I tend to be actually kind of opportunistic with hiring. Like, look for good people, look for opportunities when they come along, lean into some of that stuff. And so, I don't have specifics there other than to keep eyes open.
Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, people who are super passionate about the project and work really hard, that's key. You guys all know Lamp directly from the community. He's a super heavy hitter on the team. Huge impact for us, and he comes straight from the project and from the team. If I could hire everybody who are players first, I really would.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the opportunities present themselves, and you just got to go for it and be ready for it.
All right. So no more questions around what we're going to do with the $3.5 million and what Carrie's doing, what I'm doing, or Chapter 14? I was trying to be crisp and funny at the same time. Mitch or Jumpgate, do you guys have that list of questions that people asked ahead of time? Because I'm trying to sequence a little bit of the agenda, and I want to make sure to thread in their questions in the right spot.
I think Jumpgate has been checking on that stuff.
Yeah, actually, I do have those there. I'm listing them out right now. We have one from Match, a couple from Primo, 3 from Arthur, and then about 4 more questions from Anonymous here. So we have these guys in the stage here, so we could bring them up if they want to go ahead and ask their questions personally, or we can go ahead and I can ask them when we're ready to do some Q&A on that. We've got about 14 total.
What I was kind of hoping for, Jumpgate, is that you wouldn't keep their questions to yourself, but you would share that with Mitch and I, so we can help figure out how to thread this.
Oh yeah, that's happening right now.
Okay. Okay. Well, then we'll segue for a moment. Mitch, why don't you describe what you're working on just the short-term stuff right now? Like what's on your horizon for the next 2 to 4 weeks? Don't go farther than that just yet.
Yeah, sure. The biggest things that I'm focused on in the next few weeks are a major overhaul to our first-time user experience. This includes all new tutorial missions, guided and a new guided experience that really onboards new players into the game. It takes them into a new starting DTM that has some shared buildings, has a bunch of NPCs and missions, and really kind of teaches the player every aspect of the game and how to kind of really on-ramp into everything. In addition to that, I'm working on overhauls of most of our professions in normalizing and fixing XP, stamina, experience, and tool and power usage kind of across the board for each of the tiers of the professions in a more normalized way. And then from that, also building out a whole new slew of profession-based missions, and so that every profession itself has a unique amount of progression and sort of guided content that teaches you how to move across each of the recipe chains for those professions, how to use all the major buildings and sort of loops that are existing within the profession. So the first one I'm working on is life science, so that'll teach you the planting of seeds, advanced fertilizing, seed sowing. It'll also roll out with all of the expanded content, including things like aeroponics and hydroponics, and then connect the dots into everything for composting and chickens and aquaponics that will also kind of fill it all out. So that's really the big core focus for the next 2 to 4 weeks that I'm really focused on. That also includes the new dialogue system that will also tie into missions and quests, so that there'll be a little bit more narrative and story and purpose behind a lot of the content that's going to be added into the game.
All right, let me throw you a softball here, Mitch. This sounds awesome, right? A whole new starting town, all kinds of new missions, dialogue system. Let me ask you a provocative but still softball. Why didn't we do that last time when we were all excited about Fatui V3 and our missions in the Fatui?
Because we didn't have enough content to fill in the gaps. We still had a lot more things to build out, and everything that we do is iterative and requires sort of a lot of repetition to sort of move it to the next step.
Okay, that's all true. I was hoping you were going to read my mind. The other part is what we're working on so hard. And we've talked about on Discord chats a couple different times. Is a game design editor.
Oh, yes.
We have ambitions here. We want to have thousands of missions in Million on Mars for the players to play. But to make thousands of missions under our old technology is just too painful. So we've been working really hard on this new game design editor since October, and we were really hoping today was going to be the first day that we shipped new content to production using the editor. And we came darn close. And in fact, in real time while we're chatting on this, 4 minutes ago, LAMP is still working on one last fix that could perhaps unlock it. So sometime tonight, I think optimistically, you're going to see some new content come out of the game design editor. It's got tons of stuff that makes things better for us. You guys seen us over the past year ship all kinds of content. We're, speaking of QA, frankly, you guys are the QA, and we'll ship content. You'll look at it, you go like, whoa, there's a description problem. Like, why did you misspell that word? Well, this game design editor has previews on everything, so we can click a preview button and we can see it, how it's going to look before we ship it. We have the ability to ship between different environments. We have the ability to see what a recipe's input cost is in Dusk based on the 24-hour price in the marketplace. And then we can also see what the loot tables are paying, and it'll tell us if it's profitable or not profitable. So like all that stuff that you see in DigiPro, we got a lot of that now pulled inside in our editor, so we should be like 5 or 10 times more productive than we were in the past. So the contemplating building thousands of missions under the old system is unpalatable. And so with this new tooling, this unlocks the ability to really make love to the game, make love to the mission system in the early part, and just fill it totally full of content. All right, I'll throw another question to you, Mitch. What's the roadmap for? So you mentioned aeroponics, you mentioned hydroponics. How complex or where are you going with cooking?
I am really excited to be working on it's meant to be sort of lockstep with the overhauling of life science that I'm working on. So there's even going to be missions from life science that kind of lead off and sort of give you the foundational points that kind of lead into cooking so that we can kind of connect those dots. The goal and the intent here is to start with launching the food warehouse, which is going to sort of be the first step towards food storage and transitioning away from generic food growing. So, players will store food inside of the food warehouse and then consume meals from it as like a recipe, instead of doing it just as a pure kind of quick action. So there's going to be a bit of a transition that will happen there. And then over time, we'll be transitioning away from players growing food directly as like an item and growing the actual ingredients. And there'll be new supporting cooking buildings that we'll be launching that will allow you to produce items for consumption inside of a commissary kitchen. You'll be able to do things like food preservation, specific types of research, fermentation, and other things that are excited to sort of food science inside of a building that is going to be called the food lab. And then all of that will sort of like work together with the food warehouse as a means of sort of preparing and storing food and preparing advanced meals. And then over time, we'll be those consuming those meals will effectively fill up your fullness. There'll be sort of a it'll transition from sort of just generic eating of food and water to actually having potential status effects. Like I really think that we can take the sort of survival aspects of many games that you see already in the market and kind of bring some of those realism aspects to what we have here. And I think cooking is the sort of next step towards that.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Okay, now I got the list from Jumpgate on the side here. I'm looking at it here on our internal Slack, Mitch. I feel like going through the grumpy questions first, and then we can transition to more of the positive stuff as we get towards the end of the chat. What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'll do number 5 first. Why did you guys nerf most of the buildings to the ground if the dynamic treasury was coming, especially the canteen and the habitat? That's a good question. In fact, the dynamic treasury, we wrote up the spec in April, and if we had actually jumped on it right away and built that out, then we would have had the dynamic treasury in place, and then we would never have had to do any of the nerf ever. So yeah, you're right. That sequence is crazy. But back in April, May, June, we had an opportunity with Martisans, we had an opportunity with Solana and Fractal, and frankly Sunflower, the first cross promotion, and so it was just hard to fit that in. The dynamic treasury is not a trivial spec. I mean, it was a real piece of engineering, and I'm very proud of the work that Lamp put into that. So it was just frankly a case of just not being able to find the right time slot to work on dynamic treasury ahead of the need for the nerfing. Now, if you go back and think about, what did we nerf? We nerfed the cantina, the habitat, and I'm surprised this person didn't raise up the pirate radio on this list. It was just frankly necessary. We were inflating Dusk radically way too fast. And, we can't wait, weeks or months when there's a spigot and there's just a rampant inflation going on there. Controlling the inflation at Dusk, we consider it a sacred duty on our part, and I think it's negligent of a project that allows things to just boom and then bust out and just spray all on the floor. That it was chaotic. I agree that it would have been better to build the dynamic treasury first. And I agree that it would have been better to not have had bad game balance that allowed that crazy amount of inflation. So all I can do is agree with the hard question and acknowledge the things that were negative about it. But here's the positive thing. We did build the dynamic treasury. We are now controlling our free-to-play inflationary currency better than I believe any other Web3 project has, and we have better tooling. And we started to apply that, as you saw with aerospace, with the hard schematics. So at least you guys can understand or feel that we really do care about keeping the economy nice and tight and clean, and that we turn that care into some actions, and we have it set up correctly now. You have something to add to that, Mitch?
No, I think you touched on a lot of it. I would add just sort of small for the a small addendum for the specific things called out about the cantina and the habitat was that if you had looked about the total amount of Dusk that was being added to the economy, it was drastically disproportionately coming from cantinas being used by a very small number of players, like comparatively to every other building in the game. And the same then was also true for the habitats, such that like adjustments had to be made in terms of like reconciling their profitabilities. Like it was significant. That said, the missions work that I'm doing also involves like plans for a sort of what is going to be recalled as a daily mission system, and part of that will have building missions and other things that will make the cantina a significant and important building in the future as well. So it's certainly not been forgotten, and the same goes for the trading bazaar, training hall, library. Basically, all the special buildings will tie into these sort of systems in a new way that ensures having them is always worthwhile.
Great. So that was question number 5. From that, I'm going to flip over to question number 8 from Primo. How do you feel that the dynamic treasury is working? Anything in mind for future iterations and balancing? At a high level, I'm delighted, speaking personally, on how the dynamic treasury is working. It now has the auto drip. We can use it, and we are using it for more than just Dusk. We're using it also for glitter, and then, like I said, for the aerospace schematics. What iterations or what balancing? We already did one action. For a long time, we were burning 80% of, and then put 20% back in the treasury. Bullishly, it's feeling good. As you guys have seen, Dusk went on a little micro tear. It's relaxed a little bit in the last couple of weeks, although wax has also gone up. So in terms of like Dusk to US dollars, it's fairly stable. But we relaxed the burn rate down to 70%. So we're putting more of the Dusk back into the treasury. So that is an example of an actual balancing that's been happening. And we've also relaxed the progressive withdrawal fees as well. So I think another way to say it, I think we did a lot of mistakes or sins in terms of overinflation in the middle of summer, but we acted hard and took the necessary uncomfortable actions to nerf things. It's no fun for us, no fun for you guys, but we did it, and then got this dynamic treasury, and it's basically working. From here on out, I think happy to hear about requests for featurelets or small things, but I'm looking forward to adding more Dusk that is explicitly inflationary, commensurate with growth, so that loops are balanced, something like that. Any more to add on that one there, Mitch?
No, but I think that the way that we've implemented the dynamic treasury system and having this thing in place provides a lot of interesting opportunities in the way that it can be expanded in the future as well. And I think that I have a lot of really fun creative ideas that we can leverage for that will allow us to just continue to make gameplay more and more exciting. Everything that we build is designed as a sort of an iterative process, so that it's not the final version of anything, and we're always thinking about like ways to add additional functionality and depth to the features and the systems that we build.
Great. Okay, question number 10. Are you going to get around to cleaning up those pesky Team Sabo tickets? Eric and Carrie both said on video that they wouldn't turn them into the new Candy Cane. Yes, we will. Also related to this is, what about the leftover artifact shards? Or I'll connect it to question number 6. What causes things to be released in an unfinished state and then left alone for weeks or months? For example, the Gen 3 market making efforts with the Cantina vouchers, half the vouchers can't be used because some of the recipes for the buildings can't be acquired in the game. Another example would be the builder's shop, the shop area with no information about the builder's tickets, or several artifacts where the shards cannot be obtained. Are these things deliberately put on ice for more exciting stuff? Or there's something still missing so they can't be finished? All right, so they're all related. And the answer really is, it comes back to that game design editor. Max has got really cool, at least in my opinion, really cool specific new recipes for those of you that own the artifacts. You're all going to get new recipes on your artifact that no one else has and won't be on any other building, just dedicated to your artifacts. And then we're also going to do more Sabo ticket turn-ins. And we're going to also have just a general artifact collector turn-in in Duskworks Landing for those of you with odd artifact shards that you don't know what to do with, or you're not choosing to sell them to the artifact owners. We will be able to do a lot more with the editor. I have personally done a lot of game design editing on the spreadsheet alongside of Mitch and Max and others. I probably have somewhere between 1,000 hours in our old system, the sheets, doing it, and I've gotten some intense carpal tunnel syndromes. I literally have to tell you guys, I have to whine like a goat. It's painful. Our old system is, we are pushing the absolute limit of what Amazon Lambda functions can handle, how the Vercel build cycle goes. The engineers keep doing clever things to make it work again. Frankly, there was a couple days in December where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get our release out of our new content. It was breaking at the seams that much. So I'm putting a lot of weight on the game design editor. It is going to be transformative for us, and we're going to continue to keep on investing on it all year long. It's going to be the most important tool for us to invest in going forward. And we're just going to keep on making it better and better and better. And a little tip of things to come. It has to be that the team is delighted to make content and delighted to fix things and delighted to make new things. I want to go into the feedback channel, see an idea, whip it up, and ship it to prod inside of an hour. That's what I want. And under the old system, this just wasn't possible. On the new system, it's going to be. Do you have more to add on that, Mitch?
Sure. Yeah, to touch on the specifics, I have a couple other things called out in that question that was submitted. I would say they're not forgotten items, especially the cantina vouchers or any of the missing recipes. They're just on a list that is continues to be prioritized in a sort of a real-time fashion. And the current sort of immediate priority is largely on really getting the first-time user experience in a better place for the other efforts that are all happening in parallel. If you look at the roadmap, the sort of there's things on the horizon for Polygon and Node Chain sort of Web 2 support, and really we want to have a refined first-time user experience so that we can be in a really solid place to grow. And then all the other things that are sort of missing will get caught up as I'm overhauling and getting all the professions back in order and all those missions. Everything will get sort of fixed out and fleshed out that's missing across the board there, really across almost every profession. So that's the plan.
Yeah, and we have a significant shop polish overhaul that's in flight as well right now. And part of that, underneath the hood, the shop is going to get its guts ripped out and put back together again. So it's built on top of our, what we call recipe system internally, which means that we'll be able to, right now, when you guys go shopping for items, everything has a single currency price. Like you could only buy it for resource credits or only buy it for Dusk or Wax or Solana. And that's an artifact of an old engineering decision that we're ripping out and fixing it. Using the recipe system, we'll be able to be a lot more expressive, and we will say, "Oh, this thing is 10 daily rations plus 50 Dusk." So going into 2 tokens opens up some design space. But we're also going to be able to implement the market making function of those experiments we did, like with the Gen 3 land packs, where people can craft Gen 3 items and sell them to the system, and then another player can buy them, and we can act as a market maker and put some explicit inventories in there, and then as people buy and sell, it automatically increments and decrements the other side. So sometimes you'll see us ship stuff in an intentionally unfinished state, honestly, to see if you guys like it and see how you're playing with it and see how it should inform how we polish it for reals. But the other thing is, just like broken stuff left over, artifact shards and random things like that, all the random broken hanging threads should be a lot easier for us to clean up much more rapidly with this good editor. So in the past, we've had to make like painful decisions. Do we work on the thing that's absolutely super important, or do we fix this thing that's broken, but it's not going to really change the project one way or the other. Going forward, we shouldn't be pressed with those kinds of heavy existential decisions, because it's going to be, frankly, a lot simpler to go build this stuff. And that's also why I said in the beginning of the call, why game design is on my mind. I do think game design is the tightest piece of labor at Million on Mars. And I do believe obviously a lot in this game design tool to effectively add bandwidth to us as game designers. So, maybe a couple of weeks, 3 weeks of it being up and live and rolling and everything like that, it'll be productive that I'll relax my stance and be thinking more about art, engineering, or QA. But these questions are very heavily on my mind. I feel genuinely bad and shitty when we leave something broken and unfinished.
Yep, absolutely. I'll elaborate because you'd also mentioned number 7, which I also think is in reference to the regular shards as well. The just specifically like what is the future of shards and buildings. I have lots of plans for what I want to do with shards. I definitely want building shards to still have value and to have a need inside of the game. There'll be an overhaul for sort of some of the bizarre degenerate gamblers that want to leverage shards inside of there. I don't want to leave that unfinished and unaddressed. Long term, I want to close off the sources of shards that are not coming just from anything other than places like the lockboxes or the bizarre and dismantling buildings. I think we still have them in a few too many places that we can sort of make adjustments for. I want shard crafting inside of buildings to still be possible inside of like machine shops with like a shard crafting kit. That's still on the horizon as well. I definitely want to kind of realign the economics of things so that people can upgrade things and make those kind of things more accessible as needed.
Excellent. Are there any plans for a job system rework with open invisible jobs or something related from Arthur? You want to take that one, Mitch?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things on the horizon that we want to do with the job system. At the minimum, we want to improve just the way that we match and connect players with jobs that they're either labor that's being offered or jobs that they're looking for. We have an improved UI coming in the horizon for that. We want to give players a little bit more room to sort of pick and choose the way they want to offer things up or get hired. We also this is something that we sort of talked about a little bit inside of the founders chat, and we're evaluating, looking at adjusting the minimum wages across profession tiers, just to set a little bit more stringent value and reward for the players that have invested in those professions, and to ensure that they are sort of compensated appropriately inside of the player-driven market. I know that this is effectively kind of putting the thumb on the scale a little bit, but we really want to make sure that players feel rewarded for the investments they put into their professions, and we think that this is a way that we can kind of more directly encourage that in order to ensure that the players feel that value and to also see the aspirational sort of return that's very clearly shown inside of the game.
What do you feel about the minimum wage on jobs, Mitch?
I want to see it go up by tiers significantly more, but we will start by stepping it slowly and see how it reacts and how players respond to it. And it's something that I want to do with the feedback of the players and to see and to move incrementally on this, not just make very, very broad, significant steps or anything.
Great. I got another one for you, Mitch. This is from Match. When are we going to be able to craft the composters, the hatcheries, and the thorium reactors? And are we going to be able to craft individual rarities like we can with a lot of the older buildings? Having to get buildings from an expensive pack gamble in a shop doesn't feel like gameplay. Gathering resources and building something specific in a game does, from Match.
The goal for the progression of that stuff is generally going to mirror a lot of what we have done to date. The goal for crafting specific rarities is to allow you to create and increase your chances of getting those higher rarities with like the gold and the obsidian packs. For those that want to exclusively craft legendary and mythic versions of recipes, the intent and plan for that is to make them the knowledge for those gated by an achievement, so that players that craft enough of a building over time will unlock the ability to craft those higher tiers. They'll still require a very high level of specialization and profession level and probably some signets, but the idea there is that you could gain access to that, and it's throttle. They'll have significant costs, of course, as well, but it's sort of a reward for the players that have invested the most in crafting those specific buildings. So that's the way to sort of balance it out in a way that I think is the most fair. Like the players that put in the most, invest the most in building and in those in making those buildings, gain access to making it, but it's not cheap and it's not something they can just print them, infinitely
Okay,
all
cool.
the time.
Cool. I got another one for you, Mitch.
Yeah.
Arthur would like to know how the Supreme Court will rule on the ability to mix different race chickens.
I'm glad I got the softball. Yes, you will definitely be able to mix and breed different chicken breeds and races, and the goal is definitely going to be that they'll be like I have a lot of if you look up the like historical lineages of like where chickens and all the breeds have like come from and where they sort of descend from, there's certainly going to be um some I want to draw from that realism and sort of make it so that there's chances of unlocking certain breeds with certain combinations and certain traits that are unlocked over time. I think that I want to have it be expansive and fun to sort of discover over time, and that there's achievements that are already sort of designed to encourage players to do lots of different breeding with all the different breeds, so that they can unlock and discover more chicken breeds, and we'll reward. We'll likely have achievements for the players that have first discover any of the new breeds that we add in the future as well. So, yep.
Excellent. I got a question, possibly, I think, for Grilled Cheese. Can we pull him up to the stage?
I think he said he was a little busy.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Well, from Arthur as well. Arthur loved the trivia event in December. He's asking for other plans for more interactive and social events like that, like the drinking raffle. And he would just like to see more of that, weekly stuff, like more. When more. I'm thrilled with the trivia event. I thought it was awesome that he pulled that together. I think it's very influential. I don't think doing it back to back in January would have made sense. I like it to get a little sense of fondness, and we'll come back and do some more. Grilled Cheese has got an awful lot of latitude though on his social event building, and I know Mitch internally is really keen on all kinds of events. I'm gonna have to say one more time. I'm waiting for this game design editor to come up live so that we can actually execute on a lot of these good ideas a lot faster. What would you add to that, Mitch?
Yeah, that touches on it pretty well. I definitely want to do more and more events and more opportunities to just do fun, cool social things with the community. That also includes like hopefully opportunities. I want to do more. I'm hoping this can be the year that we can like meet players, do meetups, do more cool stuff that is it sort of connects the community that we've built.
Cool. All right. Believe I've gotten through all questions except for one of the heavy hitting ones, but the heavy hitting one's a nice tee up for our long range plans. And that question is from an anonymous person. We've seen many people leaving, and to be honest, I think everyone would feel the same, that we really need more players, as this is an economic game, which need some bigger player base for better changes. So my question is, at which point will the dev team feel comfortable to do marketing? And for marketing, what is the marketing plan? Right? Good, heavy hitting question. I've got a little image of some principles of growth that Mitch and I were earlier today about. What do you think? The redacted one good enough for leaks, Mitch?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would also speak to the fact that part of like our efforts to really kind of super focus on marketing and growth efforts are pegged to our desire to make sure the first time user experience is feeling we're at the bar that we want it to be at, and that we're available and accessible on additional blockchains, including Polygon. So when those hurdles are kind of through, I think you will see us making longer and stronger strides in efforts of drawing in and growing the player base a lot more aggressively.
Yeah. Okay. So I just posted in leaks this thing that I call principles of growth that I work with Mitch to polish up, and let's just walk through it, because this will cover how we think about growth and to think about marketing, and give you a good view of the long range roadmap. So, number one, tools. Keep funding tools to accelerate, automate, scale, or whatever it is to improve the capabilities of the team. Big theme of this conversation of this AMA today has been about the game design editor tool. Frankly, if I could snap my fingers and walk back through time, I would have built the game design editor tool before we built the game, and we would build the game with the tool first. Now you can do that, in Unity, and you can do that with Unreal and some other game engines. Blizzard, many established houses have their own internal tools, and they go and make the next games. That's how it's done. But when you're doing the very, very first one, we're trying to figure things out from raw scratch. Kind of naturally, you go for gameplay first and see how people play. So even with the benefit of hindsight, I don't criticize us for not having a tool by now. It's just kind of as it goes when you have a first game. When you're putting it together, you kind of just have to go and make gameplay first, and then figure out what the tool should look like. So tools are number zero in priority. The next priority for growth is no friction. Make sure that you solve the bugs. Make sure you solve the performance. Make sure you pay down the outstanding promises. I see all of everybody here in this channel. We have had some people leave, but I think people FUD more than is reality. DAU is still quite strong and quite stable. We grew a bunch of DAU with the first Sunflower event in May, and then a lot of that has boiled off and relaxed off over time. I think that's kind of expected, and that's normal. But our DAU is still pretty much right where it was at the shoulder or the hill up to the Sunflower main crossover in May. Frankly, we were expecting to get a little bit more from the Fractal integration. We still like the Fractal team a lot. We're still quite friends with them. And we're expecting a little bit more from Solana in terms of just general people showing up. But, the DAU is stronger than I think people believe it is. We are looking hard at publishing more of the stats, so you don't have to hear me hand wave and just guess or try to trust me. So we will be getting into more of the stats publishing business shortly. But before you worry about growing, make sure you're not having people quit. I feel very, very happy with where we are with performance. You guys have been playing this game. Again, I see your faces going back a year. You guys have seen us when it's been super laggy as all hell. You've seen a million bugs. And I think you've seen us pay down and close out all kinds of outstanding promises. We're getting small in the outstanding promises, space. We've got some Team Sabo tickets to clean up. We've got some artifact shards to deal with. We've got some market making to finish off and some crafting to do. But overall, guys, try to take a look at like October, November, December, how much we've been cleaning things up. And we do think it's important to clean things up and solve the negative retention before you try to do positive stuff. Then fun content, deliver positive retention content, more buildings, more missions, more leaderboards, achievements, mini games, and more. And I think you're seeing that as well, right? We've got aerospace and cooking kicking off. We've got achievements, I think achievements have been a fantastic addition to the game. And quite soon, you're going to see us come live with what we call internally our Hex minigame content. And we'll probably come back around to that maybe in the informal chatty stage of this conversation.
You
What?
could show off the video at the end.
Right, we could. And then live ops, doing monthly events, the trivia events, time exclusive events, Oktoberfest, Lunar Festival, weekly sales, holiday content, all that stuff takes an awful lot of work and a lot to do it, but it's important to run a live business. And I think we do it pretty darn well. One more time, I'll plug that game design editor, and that game design editor will help us do all that live cadence much more swiftly and at higher quality. Look alive, right? Before you go off and pay for ads, take advantage of all the natural social media. We need to step up our tweeting game and get tweets out there every day. We can automate some of the stuff. We can preload the tweets. I'd like to see our weekly email go out with a change log of what has shipped. We do have a lot of players that are professionals that don't necessarily have the ability to hang on to every word we have in Discord, and they would appreciate a summarized version of this. But more of that. 5, turn the feedback faster. I said that earlier in this call. I want to turn every single good suggestion you guys have into the game as rapidly as possible. I feel convinced that if we as a development team took your ideas, took them seriously, iterated it, and shipped them faster than any other project delivers for you guys, that has to be intoxicating and addictive for you guys, because you essentially have a game development team working really directly for you, and you can see the results fast. And now we have turned a ton of your feedback into the game of the past year, really a ton. But I believe we can do it better, and I do believe we can do it faster. 6, tasty growth. Make sure that the organic referral systems have sensible and tasty rewards. We have a referral system, we have referral links, we have a guild system, we have a referral shop. I'm not personally convinced that we've done enough there. Like, I think we could do more rewards, and I'm especially attracted to exclusive rewards. Like, the only way to get X building or X recipe or X blah, blah, blah is if you've invited 5 real people to play the game. I'm not looking for 100 people. I'm not looking for 2,000 people, but 5 people who have really, really engaged and leveled up to like level 25 or 50 in a profession, something like that. We do not want to reward the trashy bots, and we don't want to reward the trashy multi-counter. So it's nuanced. It takes skill to build systems and reward for true engagement. But I feel very, very strongly that's the legitimate real growth. And building on that, social. We do have an economic colony building MMO, but what's so weird is like we don't have in-game chat, and you can't even send a message to another player, and you can't send them a gift, and you can't really look at their profile. Like, it's really, really shocking how much we're missing on the social side of an MMO. I can't stress this enough. We're going to be working really hard on that in this quarter. I feel frankly uncomfortable banging the drum and asking for new players to come in with this large of a gap on the social side. And Joel himself is going to be leading up an awful lot of this engineering on the social side. Polygon. We've mentioned it casually a few times. We mentioned it on this talk. Polygon is the largest blockchain for gaming in terms of market cap. A lot of great games out there. And I think that that's where we could start doing cross promotions much more regularly to much strong effect. Like you take the Wax blockchain, the biggest game on the Wax blockchain is Alien Worlds. And what could we do with Alien Worlds, right? We could do a cross promotion with them, but they are what, 97% bots? What good would it do for us to have 10,000 bots join the game, right? It would be bad. We would have to literally pay for the cloud compute for the bots to do their stuff, and they would, extract Dusk from our dynamic pools, and they would sell the Dusk, and really, I can't think of anything good out of a 10,000 bots coming over from Alien Worlds. If anybody has any clever ideas, let me know. I'm sure there are some humans that play Alien Worlds. I would like to reach them, and I'd like to turn them on A Million on Mars. And if somebody knows how to find them, I'm competitive, and I would really like to know. But I think cross promotions over on Polygon will be much stronger, and I think more effective. And then, kind of like social, is PvP, right? Combat, player versus player competing. That really drives an awful lot of real social activity. Together with your friends and say, hey, let's compete. And I mentioned this Hex minigame tech. We're really proud of that. It's all data driven. We really are going hardcore on tools and data driven and being able to make things efficiently. But with the way it's going to work is you're going to get in your hopper. You're going to fill it up with rocket fuel. You're going to fly into a dangerous DTM, and you're going to bring in your hopper and your rovers and your upgraded rovers, and you're going to go battle it out with other players and do a lot of fun PvP stuff. And we have a lot of different game modes, scavenging game modes, revamped player versus environment modes, and then it'll be solo PvP, group PvP, and then we want to get into settlement PvP, and we want to get into faction PvP. But PvP is super great for everything. It's growth, it's retention, and frankly, revenue. And revenue is great. And then beyond that, we've got No Chain. That's LAMP's cheeky term for the classic Web 2 player. That's huge, right? The vast bulk of players playing real games are still Web 2 players. This last year has had an awful lot of rug pulls and frauds and other shit. That being said, we know that there's an awful lot of crypto curious Web 2 players. And we know that literally because we built 2 games we tested that with Space Adventure and Land Rush. And we also know quietly, while there's a lot of vocal crypto haters out there in Kotaku land and stuff like that, there's a vast silent majority that would love to play a great game and own their stuff. We've said play and own. We really believe it, and we think we're religiously correct. People want to play a great game and they want to own their stuff. So the way that's going to work is and that's why we did the play for 3 days for free. You'll come in, you'll land on the website, play for 3 days, and then whip out your credit card and you pay for some access. And then you can continue playing the game. And then we'll hold the land for you. You install your buildings, you level up, you play for as long as you like, enjoy yourself. And then one day you're feeling comfortable, 30 days later, 60 days later, 100 days later, maybe you select Polygon as your default wallet, or maybe it's Solana, or maybe it's Wax, and you start to mint your stuff and you trade on chain. And I'm looking forward to it. I think we as a team have a really good set of values and ethics, and I'd like to think that we have really good player experience. And I would be both fiercely competitive and grateful and humble if we could be one of the big ambassadors to bring Web 2 people into Web 3. Then past No Chain, then we got localization. As you guys know, here on Discord, we've got a bunch of different channels. We've got Portuguese, we've got Turkish, we've got Russian, we've got a lot of that. And we've got a lot of passionate players in those languages. But I don't know if any of you here who are native English speakers have tried playing a game in Chinese or Korean or Spanish. I have. It's very difficult to play a game in a foreign language. Even with Google Translate and all the wonderful things, you can learn the buttons over time, but it doesn't make it fun. And as we're going off into the direction of thousands of missions and much more immersive game and being competitive as a standalone Web 2 game that's not resting on just the blockchain aspect, it's going to be critical that people can read the gameplay. So localization is super critical. And I'm going to pause there and have a sip of water. Do you want to add some words?
Yeah, I played a game in Korean once for a few months that was incredibly painful. I played Dungeon Fighter Online in Korean when I was trying to convince the company I worked for to publish it in the West. And it was excruciatingly painful. This is also why I'm an advocate for localization. I should also add that our hope and desire is to leverage the treasury in a way that we can also reward players for helping with our localization efforts.
That's right. And so that's a great tee up to actually point number 14. Here's how we're going to do the localization. We will have you, the player base, localize the game. And what we're going to do is, again, leverage that game design editor. And the very first version of the game design editor that you players will play with will be the localization sub-editor. And we'll have a system where you like raise your hand. Maybe you possibly put down a little deposit and say, like, I would like to be an editor in Portuguese or Spanish or whatever it is. And then you can start editing strings in the game where they are in the game. So you'll see like a little pencil edit button, and you'd be able to submit a Portuguese string and replace the English string. And of course, that would get uploaded, and it would be, marshaled for review and all that. As people have reputation, some of their edits would just go through, faster, without a human review. And if somebody gets flagged for doing something naughty, then maybe they get their edit thing removed from you. So that goes back to step 0, tools. Why have the players localize? Because I've localized a lot of games. And the way games are normally localized is you collect all your strings, you put them in a big spreadsheet, and then you send them off to a localization house, and they munch on the strings for a while, they charge you a bunch of money, and they ask you shit tons of questions about the gameplay because they don't understand the game and they don't care about the game. And then you get back a pile of strings that are like 85% good. You plug them in, and then you ship your game. And then native speakers of that game, of that language, will go, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. This 15% error shows that you didn't take my language really seriously, and makes me sad. Blizzard was the first Western game company to take East Asian localization seriously, and that was with StarCraft. The original StarCraft, they localized to Korean, and they launched it simultaneously with English and Korean. And that endeared StarCraft to the Korean audience intensely. Of course, StarCraft is a great, great game, but I could not overstate the impact that StarCraft had on greater Korean culture. And I speak from some authority there because I lived there for 6 years.
Yeah, it was a cultural phenomenon to a whole different level. It would be an Olympics. It would be an Olympic sport or a national sport if it could be for them.
Oh yeah. I spoke in the Korean Parliament alongside professional StarCraft players. It was crazy intense. But by having the players do the localization, that means every time we ship new content, it's up to the Portuguese passionate audience or the Turkish audience, hours later or the next day or a week later, then it gets localized into Portuguese or Turkish, and it gets localized in context of the gameplay by a player. So that means that we would actually have essentially as good as possible quality as you can get. You get 100% good translation. You get it faster. So better quality, you get it faster. And then frankly, as Mitch said, we'll have dedicated dynamic treasuries of both like Dusk and Glitter to pay for that translation. And so we keep it in the family. The players make the game better, and the players get paid for doing that. Love it.
And that is only the beginning.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to be using localization. I'm going to skip over 12 and 13 for a moment. We're going to be using localization as a test of bringing this editor out to the players and having the players edit game content. Where I really would like to do is that you guys are not putting something in the feedback suggestions list on Discord and waiting patiently whether or not somebody on the team is interested about it. I want to get to the point where you guys can go craft a new recipe. You guys can craft a new achievement, a new leaderboard, whatever it is, and you could submit it, and other players can play it. There's the obvious question: is, well, how do you deal with balance? Well, this is kind of fun and cheeky, but like, imagine you have a settlement. I'll pick on Felix for a moment because I enjoy him and I like his settlement. But what if Felix and his friends decide to put together a storyline and put together a whole bunch of missions? Well, they can do that. But they could even fund the loot tables of their missions. And why not? Right? They could do that for their own settlement members. They could make it public to other people.
They can also fund the requirement, or set the requirements for the recipes and the actions for those things as well.
That's right. So they can essentially create a gate, and then they could create an entrance fee to the gate and say, here's what it's going to cost to come in, and people could consume their content and have a good time, or not have a good time, and they can get reviews and then pay for the loot. And we like spread out this greater Web3 decentralized game development project to everybody. This is super important to me. And so we would get to point 14, where we change our stance from being play and own to play, build and own. 12 and 13. 12 is really kind of a minor thing in the greater scheme of things compared to that player created content. But we have an opportunity to put web notifications when you're ready to eat, or when you've got a new daily ration ready to go. That would improve retention, and we could do the same thing by wrapping the website up. The game is a web-based game, and I like it that way. We could wrap it up into an app. We could snip out some of the crypto aspects to keep it kosher with Apple and Google, and then you could get mobile notifications for things like that. And it's really a retention play.
Or Steam.
Or Steam, right? Right. Going back to 10, no chain Web 2, we're pretty bullish that Epic would be happy to have us. And then 13, I don't want to spend a ton of time in this call talking about it, but we are going to make a second game, and that second game will be part of the Men on Mars metaverse, and it will leverage absolutely every game system we already have. And one more time, I'm going to hit the game design editor. It's going to, that game number 2, will be built with the game design editor first, and it will leverage everything we have. And I think you guys are going to love it. I don't want to give away too much, but those of you that have ownership of land and assets in Million on Mars will be positively surprised. I'll try to tease it that way. But that's our overview of growth. Tools make you be able to work, smart and fast. Don't do any dumb stuff with bugs or performance. Make it fun, make it live, keep it looking live, turn the feedback. Reward the people for the organic growth. Have social breathe life into the game. We've got a lot planned for social. Joel's got something really exciting right on deck. He's itching to get to. We're kind of forcing him to eat a couple bowls of veggies first. I'm sorry about that, Joel. Then Polygon for just legitimate solid growth. PvP will put some gasoline on the fire. No chain should go off the hook. And then with localization, that's another 4 or 5x on our numbers, possibly 10x. And then in a future where, think about everybody on this town hall here. Everybody here, I recognize so many people's handles and names here. I suspect literally everybody here could contribute in a player creation thing. Somebody here could fix a spelling error. Somebody could name something. Somebody could add a description. Someone could ideate a whole new item or building or recipe. Everybody here, I believe, has something that they could possibly contribute. But we don't need every player to contribute. Even if we had just 1 out of 500 players contributing, that would be a gigantic force multiplier in terms of a game development team. And then think about what happens to growth when Felix has got his mission chain set up in a settlement like I talked about. Felix is going to talk to his friends and family, and he's earning perhaps some Dusk and glitter off his gate fee, or he's just enjoying being creative. So that turns everybody who's playing the game, everybody's making the content, into even a more motivated, organic person helping grow and market the project to their friends in a sustainable, clean way, as opposed to like marketing banners and track bots and stuff like that. So that was a rigorous response to question number 2. What is the marketing? That's the end of my planned content. Do people have more casual questions?
We could also maybe speak a bit to some of the leaked items that are on the roadmap.
We could do that. Felix has got his hand up.
Oh, come on up. There you go. Gotcha, I think.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We
There we go.
can.
I think my concern, or the thing which I'd like to investigate a little bit, is we talked a little bit going back a while ago now around a lot of the things which were coming out, like player mode buildings, or I suppose even some of the closer stuff like chickens and breeding those, and rare combinations, and the bazaar, and lots of things which have been sort of mooted for some time. I think my concern revolves around the time to get those to the player base, because well, I mean, if we take the bazaar, it's kind of been mooted on and off since we stopped the legendary printing of buildings, which was a good thing. That something would be coming. Is there any way which you're looking to expedite the development of those facets to help?
Mitch, can you answer that question in a novel way? Because I feel like I will just throw right back at
Game
poor
design editor.
game design editor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely that. It's not for it's we like Junkgate had also said earlier in a thread somewhere that like the list that was shared on the roadmap was pared down from like a list of like 70 items. So like there's a lot of other like smaller little things that are planned and are still sort of like on the list to get handled that will get sort of will happen in lockstep with some of the other things that are sort of in they're also sort of gated by the game design editor.
So when
Another way to say that, Felix, if you saw that principles of growth, if you saw priority 1, where I said no friction, besides bugs and performance, I said, finish open promises.
Mhm.
We understand that we have to close that gap on, it might be fine to throw some things out to test for a little bit and here and there. That's fine. But once we know if people like it, then we should finish it. If they don't like it, we should figure out why they don't like it and we should change it, and not leave things hanging.
So when do you think the game design editor will be in its full operating capacity so that we can get the benefits of it?
Well, just in Slack in real time, LAMP just fixed the last key super blocking bug that we know of. So at the moment, we think we are going to ship tonight something with that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, we totally understand. We have to repair that.
The reason why it comes up is that we talk about a lot of the good things which we're seeing coming, which certainly more content breeds more players, breeds more interest, breeds better gameplay. And we talk about all these things that, yeah, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to use them, and this is what we're going to see in the game. There's normally quite a lengthy lag between the visionary piece and the reality. And I understand the game design editor is going to help that. Obviously, I'm just keen to start seeing the benefits of it as soon as possible.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
Okay, thank you.
Lamp's here on the stage. Feel free to say thank you to Lamp and stuff on the editor. Any more questions? Any more hand raises? Okay. Well, we did release that new updated roadmap graphic. And so I feel honestly a little shy to discuss it because Felix just called me out like, why talk about new stuff? But I think you guys do want to see that we have strong plans going forward, though, right? All right, so here's what let's just focus on Q1. So in Q1, we're pretty darn confident we would have polygon parity completed. The next item is Hex minigame systems. That allows us to do the Hopper Away mission, mining, to do the PvP stuff. It allows us to do much better scavenging. There's an awful lot wrapped up in the Hex minigames. And we'll probably, I think I would like to not share that particular video yet, Mitch. I'd like to probably do a cadence of leaks around that, maybe next week.
Sure.
It is a fun video, but you're going to have to wait for that one. And then that finishes off aerospace and allows us to build the launch pad and the hangar and the Velociraptor engine factory with full gusto. We're going to do some fun stuff with your hoppers. You'll be able to mint them out to a chain of your choice. And you'll also be able to upgrade and add decals to them in the hangar and customize them. So that should be fun. So the hoppers will act somewhat like an artifact, somewhat like a Martisan, but it's one that you get to customize. And I think that's pretty exciting. And that's happening this quarter. With that new fancy editor, we are going to go nuts, and we're going to have 1,000+ game. And there should be lots and lots of content and milestones and progress for the new players coming in from Polygon and from other growth efforts. And that should keep them really well engaged. All right, and then with the Hex minigame system, then we start to do some near Mars asteroid mining. This one I got to throw a call out to Steel Rat, Dr. Ola Gaberma. He's working on using real data sources to model a good stochastic representation of the composite of the near Mars asteroid. So you'll be mining something as reasonably scientifically accurate as possible. Then you got everybody's favorite chicken NFTs. And Joel's leading up our social efforts on something yet not announced on this sheet, something very near term you'll see quite soon. And then plus in-game chatting and friends list and gift sending and messages, everything's social. And then you get your cooking profession in earnest. Lamp's going to come back, use the hopper and the Hex minigame stuff and put together group missions where you would need like 4 other players to go off and go do an adventure on a given TTN. And that will be great also for growth because we could just say just 4 other players. We could say, hey, you need to bring someone with life science 75 to go investigate some sort of suspected methane anomalies inside this lava tube. Or maybe you need to bring somebody along with machining and robotic skills over 50 in order to repair a broken or lost rover. And that's quarter 1. Quarter 2, we believe that we'll be able to be timely with these estimates too. Frankly, the team internally has a desire to be on to in Q1. I pushed it out to Q2 in terms of this graphic because I'd rather over deliver and under promise. And then we got a really fun PvP design from Mitch on the uranium mine. Again, that probably could get into Q1, but we'll put it in Q2 on this graphic and maybe we can overachieve. And I've talked about localization and having the players do that. Premium service membership. This is something really important and it's tied to the No Chain Web 2 support. We would like the players to come in and pay for access to the game, keep out the bots, but we also want to give a Web 2 person a familiar business model. So they could come and pay for access and they could pay for a monthly premium service. And we want to load that premium service up with lots of goodies and make it attractive to everybody. And then we get back into the rover versus rover battles and upgrading rovers and rover. This will be cooler rovers than the current, hauler and exploring rovers. they will be upgradable, they'll be customizable, you get armor, weapons, mountain points, all the kind of stuff you'd expect in a nice, fun rover versus rover PvP system. And then quarter 3 is about building out the game into the rest of beyond Mars and beyond the near Mars asteroids, getting out into Phobos and Deimos, getting up to Ceres and the main asteroid belt, and being able to build settlements and colonies out in the asteroids and actually own known and named asteroids. And then Armstrong's Leap is a city on the moon, and Gateway Station. And then in Q4, Title 2. I'm not sure if I'm personally really liking this roundtable setup, Mitch. I have to say, it's weird. I say a lot of stuff, and then because people are not on stage, I don't get any kind of real-time feedback.
We could always move over to we can kind of like officially kind of close out the recording. We can have a little bit more of an open hangout discussion in general voice.
Why don't we do that? Wait, we got a couple hands up. Do you
Okay.
want to take it? Do you want to take? Let's see. It's 1923. How about we do like 3 or 4 minutes of just wrap up over here, but the general voice where it could be more casual and more fun to chat.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'm inviting Arthur first. Sorry, Felix. I know you won't mind. How's it going, Arthur? I'm sure you're here to ask about when beavers, right?
I was playing beavers actually. But besides that, I have a really important question because how can I say it? I help a lot of new players and friends. Like you gotta focus on that and you gotta work on that. But with the dynamic treasure, I had a really hard time because on low level tasks, we don't have profit anymore. I mean, we do have, but they are kind of hated. But they just don't stand a chance. Is there any plan for that?
I would be happy to answer that.
No, it's all yours, Mitch.
Yeah, so one of the mission things that are being worked on in parallel is and sort of until it's a little bit blocked by some engineering needs, but basically we're going to be building a sort of new daily mission system in which players get randomized assigned missions. They get the ability to get a set of them every kind of 8 hours or so. Completing these and enough of them every week will give players guaranteed rewards of Dusk, tools, and resource credits, so that players will have more, like, basically there's an upper limit to how much you can earn per week, but it's all driven by actually participating and playing within the game and using all the core systems. So it's things like doing jobs on the market, doing jobs, buying or selling on the market, spending specific amounts of stamina on specific professions, or doing other sort of tasks. So the goal is to give you a nice consistent drip of resources by participating within the economy, and all these actions concurrently done by players will generate the necessary fees into the pools from which this is all generated. So it should be pretty self-sustaining. And the goal for the resource credits in the longer term will be that they transition into giving you non-market selling items. So you'll be able to use that to gain things that you need on and not for your daily needs and for sort of persistence. But it won't be just used to like instantly flip and sell stuff on the market. It's main for sort of producing secondary goods that you then can sell if you were to make them. So it's that in combination with the new first time user experience and localization should really make new players onboarding into the game feel a lot less painful.
Okay, and now you're gonna be mad at me because that seems the perfect place for, I don't know, bots. Do you have any I don't know, idea against them?
It will
Or
require you to actually be playing the game. It's not meant to be designed for like the specific just basic clicking actions that like worked when you were able to get like the daily job, or just like, you know, spamming scavenging for Dusk and selling it out. It also, you know, part of one of the other things that Eric mentioned was um, the transition to sort of having like the premium service. So like the goal here would be that like there isn't a direct path of extraction unless you're actually like, you know, paying for the game, or you've you know, you're an active member and things like that. So it's really designed to curb those kind of efforts.
Okay, and my last one,
Oh,
I
and
promise.
no, no,
Uh,
I'll give you a little bit more on top of that. The actual like daily missions are come from a very large pool that is highly randomized, so it's not predictable. You're not getting the same like two or three, you know, you're not getting the Monday task that's the same every Monday. It's pulling from like a list of a much broader amount of things that require varying degrees of effort, and you might have to really work at it to complete those things, because you might, you know, you might, depending on what they are. So
oh,
it's meant to also be a much more significant deterrent against those kind of like predictable, you know, botted things.
cool, cool. And the most important one, do you have any, how can I say, a date for that? Or like a month, a week, a day?
All of the planning efforts is actually pretty much, it's kind of gated and blocked by some engineering and some UI work. Most of like the design planning for it all is already done, so it's it's in the near term. I would say it's like, I think within quarter 1 is a pretty comfortable, you know, estimate to expect.
Okay, and completely different. I like the idea of settlements, but do we have any idea of like small and medium players getting together and creating a settlement that is from everyone? Is that an idea?
Let me think if I heard you correctly. Like, could more of like a small and middle class players band together and go build a settlement rather than perhaps a dolphin or a whale? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I think we very, very much want to support that. And that should come a little bit out of that social roadmap of features. We want to have friends lists and friend groups. And yeah, we feel passionate about that. So I
I
think, I
mean,
think
I'm asking that because at the Portuguese community, we dreamed about it. Like we wanted to get together and help each other. Of course, in the middle, with each one went to a settlement. But I think that would be really cool. I mean, if it is possible.
Yeah, the
I would
biggest,
go ahead, Mitch.
I was gonna say the biggest challenge is just like splitting of the fees and the resources and everything. It's basically like everyone has to be the owner of just their things, and then all the fees collected have to be sort of split to just the owners of the buildings that they own, and then the necessary treasury fees still have to get collected. So it's, there's some complexity there that has to be solved for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Because it's
That's
basically
it.
like a collective is what you're looking for, where it's like
Yeah.
a group of landowners on the same DTM that want to like bind down together or something like that.
Yeah, and we can make a city and split fees and democracy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fun
I love the
stuff.
sound of that stuff, man. Like basically like, or I mean maybe it's such that like, you know, habitat, I mean, well, I mean having habitats is sort of a directionally closer to, you know, way towards that, because it makes, you gives you the option of having a public plot.
I would say this, Arthur. As much as you can with your friends, try to write down what you'd like to see. Dr. Oleg Abramov, he also wants voting and he also wants settlement exploration like that. So, you know, Mitch talked about a little bit of the complexity on fee splitting and sharing. To the extent that you're able to ideate and have some proposed solutions, it'd be welcome.
Yeah, we would just have to put on some heavy taxes, I think. I think it would, almost the answer to almost any one of these problems is just higher minimum fees. It almost always will solve those issues.
Yeah.
We pull up Felix. I think if you still had a question, sir, you're more than welcome.
Hello. Yeah, I didn't know. Well, we could ask this in the more informal setting or here. I suppose it was twofold. One is the fundraising was really, really good, and I'm pleased to see it happen. How the fundees, so the people who've paid the money to raise the funds, are they sort of known entities to the company, or was it wider than that, or how
Yeah,
was it
yeah, we know.
conducted?
We know who they are. The bulk of the money is from Great Southgate and Whitus, and then a little bit of money from Solana Ventures. Yeah, I mean, it's less than.
So professional backers and that
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
like
stuff.
it's like less than 8 or 9 people.
Okay. And the second question was related to the new second game which you're going to develop as well. Obviously, running development for one game consumes a lot of resources from sort of manpower. Running two takes even more.
Yep.
Are you going to take lots of steps to ensure that we can develop both games at a reasonable rate rather than detract from one to support the other?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for the easy softball question there. Yeah. I'd like to think that we would not do things stupid. I'd like to think that. But that's, again, I'll go back to the game design editor and to saying, I don't want to talk too much about the new title because it's very, very important that we truly satisfy you on Million on Mars. And I want everybody here to feel great about social, about PvP, about growth, about everything. I want everybody to feel great to the point where they're like, why didn't you guys make more games? Right? So we know we have to deliver on all the current stuff here. But to more tactically answer your question, how would we make a second title? Well, use everything we currently have and be clever about it and try to essentially reuse our engineering and get another title out of that. And we'll do. We strive for the second title to be expressed purely in game design data, art, and sound as its difference. And we do believe that we could develop games that to you, the players, feel radically, completely like different experiences and you're happy to play both. But under the hood, we're running essentially the same software. So we should have the same backend infrastructure systems. We should have the same code. If we have a new feature like sending a birthday gift to a friend in game, then that same feature would roll out to both titles at the same time. That sort of thing.
Okay.
And we're also experienced, seasoned professionals in building games explicitly under these kind of conditions, both in our own, previous work. So that this idea of leveraging a unified, shared, singular core engine and code, and building systematically in a way that always leverages things to be benefited in both places is where it becomes very exponential in the way in which things can grow.
Yeah, good.
Everything's become force multipliers, and the things that you learn in one place help you benefit and grow in the other. Player it doesn't resort in cannibalization. It actually results in just huge additive growth that just grows and grows.
Yeah, good, nice.
All right, shall we pop over to general?
Yeah, jump in
Yes,
if you want
please.
to wrap up the recording, and then for everyone who wants to come chat more openly, please hang out in general voice. Feel free to keep using the chat thread. We'll be happy to keep answering questions, and we can keep things a little more informal and have fun with it.
Yep.
Really appreciate everyone coming out.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.